Guys, just wrapped up week 3 discussions. Fantastic. Very strong work, significant improvement. I think that we're definitely seeing a kind of a swing in where we are with grades and with participation and overall product of our course on both ends right now, and I think that's fantastic. Thank you all for your hard work. Thank you all for sharing your very valuable insights. So this week we were talking in our discussion about really how do we get paid? And I know that we talked a lot about budget a week ago, and now we're talking about compensation and benefits. And I want to kind of break down a couple of things. So first of all, I wanted to say that it is true that budgetary constraints in the nonprofit world can limit salaries. That does not mean we work for free. Okay, when you leave this program, you are going to be a human service professional. That means this is your livelihood. So while we can understand one very fundamental thing about most of us, which is that fact that we're here because we want to do mission-oriented and service-oriented and community-oriented work, that doesn't mean that we need to allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. Now, why do I have to start that way? There are a lot of organizations that will take advantage of you. And I want to help prepare you so that you can avoid that. All right, so how are we going to do that? So first thing, when you are interviewing for a position, so go back to HSE 101, you identify the position that you want to do when you finish with your degree. You go out there, you sit down, you're starting to get ready to apply. What do you want to look for? So number one, what you want to look for, all right, is what is the longest period of time that folks tend, or the average period of time that folks tend to spend in your position? That is a question you can ask in your interview. So if you're applying at the Acme Human Services Organization for one role, you can say, hey, really excited about this position. One question I do have is how long was the previous staff member in this role? Or what's your average turnover? Okay, that can kind of give you a clue about culture before you even walk in the door. The other thing that you can do very relevant to the work we're doing this term is ask about their mission statement. And if they can't tell you in the interview what their mission statement is, that's a big red flag. Okay, now, does that mean that we're going to all be able to walk out and find roles that there's very low turnover and very high salary compensation? No, it sure doesn't. But here are some things that you can look at that are going to be offered to you in interviews that can kind of steer you in that right direction. Number one, if they start talking about how this is a family work environment, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but be a little bit careful, because sometimes when we talk about family culture, what we're really saying is you wouldn't want to let down your family, would you? Well, I really can't work this extra shift this weekend because I have an obligation to my children. Oh, but you're gonna let our family down that way? You're gonna let our clients down that way? You get to have a work-life balance. Don't feel bad about it, and don't let anyone manipulate you into feeling bad about it. If we don't have a good work-life balance, we can't exercise good self-care. If we can't exercise good self-care, we can't support our clients. Okay? Now, we talked in this discussion a lot about the difference between salary, benefits, and how those apply to culture. Now, one area that I'll slightly disagree with the book about is some of the things the book is talking about. I don't really think they're benefits, I think they're perks. Okay, so let's talk about benefits. Let's talk about total compensation. I may walk into an interview and they may say, okay, well, we're going to start you at $35,000 a year. And that's something else you need to look at. What is the salary in comparison to the local median income? Right? If the local median income is $40,000 a year and they're giving you 35, that might be relevant to the human services. That might be within where we kind of expect to see a little bit of a gap. And then when you see what we call total compensation, your total compensation may bring you higher, more closely to the median income. So for instance, if you've got $35,000 and then you've got employer contribution to your retirement plan, where they'll put in 3.5% of your salary. If you put in 3.5% of your salary, well, then you just give yourself a 3.5% raise because we all have to plan for retirement, right? So that's good. That gets you closer to 50. And then they're also going to help you with your health care. Okay, great. That gets you closer to 50. Or excuse me, to 40. I'm sorry. So 35 to 40. That's getting you closer to the area median income. Now, so retirement, health care, child care, if they're going to contribute to childcare costs. The book talks so much about this, and I just haven't really seen it. It may be out there, and I just haven't seen it, but I just don't see a lot of organizations helping with childcare. But if they do, great, right? Those are real benefits. Now, what does that mean? That those are real things that you can look at as part of your overall compensation that impacts the amount of money that you're making. right? So if your healthcare plan at $35,000 a year has a $10,000 deductible, that's not great. So you want to go back and you want to look at that and see what you can do to get that number down, right? Because that means you're going to be spending over a third of your salary on your deductible. That's scary, right? That's not really very sustainable. So you want to kind of balance out what those things are looking for. Quick plug for our career team. You can talk to them about this as well. You can find them online on my SNHU website, or your advisor can steer you in their direction. So those are real benefits. Now what we call overall compensation. So I'm actually getting salary, and I'm getting real monetary value from my retirement, my tuition reimbursement. That's another one. If they offer that, that might be for loans you already have, or for loans that you may be accruing, or costs you may be accruing to get an advanced degree. Those are all real things that have cash value. Okay, things you may be paying for otherwise. So that's money. So you can consider that as part of your overall compensation and your salary. Then the book starts talking about perks. They're calling them benefits. I see them as perks. Lunch, birthday cards, your day off on your birthday. Those are great. Those are neat. Okay, those are good to have. Those don't put money in your pocket. They don't put food on your table. They don't help take care of your kids. Okay, they can make you feel good, and feeling good. We talked a lot about this week. Being valued, being mission driven, having an alignment of your values. That's awesome. Now, why am I really harping on this? I've seen a lot of people enter the human services field and kind of get taken advantage of, because people know that what are we? We're mission driven and we're service driven, right? But you're also a professional, and the skills that you offer and the education that you have has value. Okay, so just be really aware that while we do have to recognize that, yes, we've chosen a service-based profession, and we've chosen it because we feel there's value in that. We also have to be really careful to understand at the end of the day, we need to be able to take care of ourselves and our families. Okay, and if you're in an organization that isn't allowing you to do that, then you either need to work to develop change within the organization or find somewhere else to go, because otherwise you're not going to be a satisfied professional and you're going to end up leaving the field, and I don't want to see that. Now, good news is the skills that we're teaching, the skills that you will have, translate to all kinds of other fields. So if you do find it's not for you, lots of places to go. Okay. Also, talk to career about that. But in the short term, we want to make sure that you're able to advocate for yourself and find things that actually allow you to take care of yourself and your family. All right, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about so if that encapsulates a lot of what I wanted to say, you can stop there, right? I want to tell you a little bit about my experience and how it applies there, if that's helpful for you. Okay, so how I learned some of these lessons, some of the things that I've learned in my career, I worked my way up, right, from pre-professional without a degree through working with that to get my bachelor's, being a case manager with my bachelor's while I worked my way up to getting my master's and being a clinician, right? And at every level there, I received some sort of compensation for the time that I was using on my education. So, for instance, as a paraprofessional, I didn't get any time, I didn't get any money to go finish my bachelor's, but I did get flexible scheduling to say, hey, I have classes this time. Can I work around being in class and continue my work hours in the evening? Organization was able to work with me on that. That was fantastic. When I was a case manager, that flexibility lessened, but the organization had an arrangement with the local university where I could receive 30% off on my master's because I work directly in the field within the same community. So that was great. So these are other creative ways that organizations can support you by putting money in your pocket while you're pursuing a career, right? Because that 30% off, they didn't have to pay anything. They just had an arrangement to feed students into this university, and that was 30% of my master's. I didn't have to pay, right? And then at the master's level, there's even perks that you can get for licensure, the perks that you can get for supervision hours you may need, all kinds of different things. So there's always creative ways that you can ask your organization, or that your organization may already have, to help you advance your career. Okay, so those are other things. Some of you did talk about the importance of professional development and training. All right, tuition reimbursement, student loan forgiveness stuff is something that's really coming up a lot. You'll see there's a lot of information out there about nonprofit student loan forgiveness. You want to look real close at that, because I actually don't know anyone who's ever successfully completed that process. It's very hard to navigate. So just be aware of that. Okay. Now, why did I start? So why did I switch into that human service field? And this speaks directly to what we talked about this week. I actually started my post-military career in sales and marketing, and I made a lot of money compared to what I made when I switched over to working in human services. But what I found at the end of the day is that post-service, post-military, I was absolutely miserable when my only motivator was what was the size of my paycheck and my bonuses at the end of the week. It didn't fit for me. So why was I willing to take that pay cut and to work those harder hours and to dive into more challenging types of work. Because for me, like for many of you, there had to be more to my day than just kind of making money. Like I had to be able to say at the end of the day, the work that I did made X better, right? So hopefully the work that I'm doing today makes y'all's lives better, which in extension makes the field of which I'm in which I'm passionate about better. But in my early days, it was I need to be able to make my clients' lives better. And I know a lot of you are here for that exact same reason. If not most or all of you are here for that exact same reason. So just keep in mind, we want to be able to remember that we indeed are here in a mission-oriented field. Don't let that drive to complete that mission allow organizations to take advantage of your passion by not compensating you or taking care of you in a fair way. Okay. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. As always, s.matthews@snhu.edu. Have a great weekend.